They don't fall in love with you, they fall into submission. Slowly, quietly, without even noticing it. One minute they're laughing at your joke, the next they're rearranging their entire day just to stay in your orbit. Not because you asked, but because you withdrew. Because you looked at them like they mattered, then disappeared. Because you gave them a glimpse of being chosen, then made them doubt they ever were. That's the formula. Create hunger, then starve it. Show warmth, then freeze. Mirror their desires, then fracture the image. Confuse them just enough that their ego gets involved. And once their ego enters the equation, it's no longer about liking you, it's about needing to win you. Now they obsess. Now they chase. And you? You stay still. Because control doesn't beg. It waits. They won't even understand why you're stuck in their head, but you will be non-stop. Their thoughts will circle around you, their decisions subtly influenced, their emotions gradually molded by your presence. Machiavelli never said the word obsession, but he described it perfectly. He wrote that men are driven by two forces, love and fear. But there's something even more consuming, obsession. Obsession isn't about chemistry, it's about control. When someone's obsessed with you, it's not just that they like you, they start reorganizing their world around you. You're the first thought in the morning. You shape the way they speak, how they dress, how they carry themselves. All of it shifts because of you. And the truth is, you can create this on purpose. The same way Machiavelli manipulated rulers. He understood one crucial rule. Obsession isn't born from what you give, it's sparked by what you refuse to give. If you want someone to crave you, don't smother them with attention. Don't always be around. That only makes them comfortable, and comfort is the death of curiosity. Do what Machiavelli would do, take away their certainty. Obsession starts when they can't predict your next move. When they don't know if you admire them or merely tolerate them. When they can't tell if your last glance was desire or cold calculation. That psychological hunger, the not knowing, traps them in a loop. The human brain hates unresolved tension. And now, you are that tension, the open question they can't stop trying to answer. You let silence stretch past the point of comfort. You reply just a little too late. You pull back the moment they lean in. Machiavelli never gave full answers. He never offered full loyalty. And he never gave people the reassurance they desperately wanted. Because the moment you make someone feel secure, the chase is over. But when you keep them guessing, that's when the fire catches. Once you've captured their attention through distance and silence, it's time to reflect what they want, but only partially. Show them glimpses, just enough for them to think, this person sees me, but never enough for them to say, I've figured them out. Machiavelli called this strategic reflection. You mirror their desires, but only in doses you control. If they admire ambition, reveal your ruthless edge. If they want emotional depth, offer a single vulnerable moment, then brush it off. If they long for intensity, give them a flash, then freeze. People don't obsess over what they understand. They obsess over what almost makes sense. And once they're hooked, once they're trying to decipher you, you begin to condition them. This is where intermittent reinforcement comes in. You give warmth, then pull away. Offer praise, then go cold. Let them close, then disappear. Randomly. Without warning. That irregular rhythm rewires their brain. It locks them into a cycle of pursuit. They reread your messages. They check their phone obsessively. Because you've hijacked their reward system, just like a slot machine that never pays out the same way twice, but always keeps them pulling the lever. You're not giving them love, you're giving them something far more addictive, hope. And once hope becomes a weapon, it's stronger than love ever was. Machiavelli understood what most people never do, that obsession doesn't grow from pleasure. It grows from pain. Not pain you create, but pain that's already there, the kind people carry quietly. Abandonment, rejection, insecurity. You don't have to wound them. You just have to be the only one who seems to truly see the wound. You listen, but you don't try to fix. You understand, but you never judge. You look straight at the part they try to hide from everyone else. And slowly, you stop being a person in their life. You become the solution. They don't just want you, they need you. Because being around you doesn't just feel good, it feels like healing. And once someone believes you are their healing, they don't walk away. They can't. If you ever ask for obsession or beg for loyalty, it disappears. True obsession can't be demanded. It has to be triggered. So let your silence speak louder than your presence. Let your indifference turn into fuel for their desire. Let your unpredictability trap them in their own imagination. Machiavelli never pleaded for devotion. He became so compelling, so impossible to decode, that people gave it to him willingly. You don't ask them to obsess, you become the thing they can't stop thinking about. They want to understand who you are, but you never fully let them. Because the moment they do, the chase dies. That's why Machiavelli never gave them a clean ending. He didn't want to be understood. He wanted to be imagined. You have to learn how to live in their imagination more than in their reality. Never offer one clear, consistent version of yourself, because predictability kills the very tension that obsession feeds on. Obsession survives on contradiction, the pull between intimacy and distance, warmth and coldness, power and vulnerability. Be focused and intense today, then light and distant tomorrow. Compliment them today, tease them tomorrow. That inconsistency makes them question which version of you is real, whether they misstepped, whether they lost something, and in chasing clarity, they become addicted to solving you. You don't owe them consistency, you owe them a maze. And as long as you never give them the map, they'll never stop wandering. If you want to control someone without ever laying a finger on them, control your timing. Machiavelli knew, it's not what you say that gives you power, it's when you show up and when you disappear. So if you want to make someone obsess, here's how. Leave the conversation when it's just getting deep. Send a message that makes them feel seen, then disappear for 8 hours. Step away when the energy peaks. Always leave them wanting more. Create a void so sharp it echoes. Once the doubt enters their mind and fear starts tugging at their chest, congratulations. You now live in their head. Rent-free. Mirroring is one of the oldest seduction tactics, but most people get it completely wrong. They think it's about copying gestures or echoing phrases. In reality, true mirroring is far more psychological. It's about holding up a version of their inner world, slightly altered, just enough to make them stare. You voice things they've always felt but never had the words to say. You pick up on details they thought no one noticed. You make them feel completely seen, but just off enough to leave them unsettled. That subtle disconnect is what keeps them talking, explaining, trying to correct the reflection. But here's the twist, you're not wrong. You're just almost right. And it's that almost that gets under their skin. They can't walk away from an unfinished mirror. They want to fix the image, close the gap, finish the story. But they never can, because you won't let them. Nothing that's common is truly desired, and nothing that comes easy is ever respected. If you want obsession, you have to make yourself rare. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. People revere what they can't easily have. So you must become scarce in every sense. Your time must feel earned, your thoughts should only come in fragments, your approval can't be given freely, and your attention must never follow a pattern. Every moment with you should feel like a prize. Because obsession doesn't grow out of access, it grows out of earned proximity. They don't fall in love with you, they fall in love with the feeling of being chosen by you. And once they feel chosen, they'll do anything to avoid being unchosen. Obsession isn't built through affection. It's built through strategic absence. Just when they start to feel close, pull back. Just when they think they've finally figured you out, vanish. Just when they start relaxing, shake the ground beneath them. Tiny emotional cuts, delivered precisely, leave a mark that lingers. Your absence shouldn't be cruel, it should be confusing. They shouldn't feel anger, they should feel longing. They should replay every word they said, every look, every pause. And that's where obsession deepens, because now it's not even about you. It's about how they feel about themselves when you're not there. Every truly powerful figure in history had a signature, something subtle but unforgettable, a scent, a phrase, a glance, a gesture. These become psychological anchors, triggers the mind can't shake. You need your own. Maybe it's a line you always say, a certain stillness in your eyes, a tone that only comes out when you're serious. These tiny cues become your emotional fingerprint. They start hearing your voice in silence, seeing you in things other people say. That's when you stop being a person and start becoming a presence. No longer human, now haunting. If you want someone to be obsessed with you, they have to see themselves in you, and you in them. You can't be the other. You have to become part of how they understand themselves. That's what Machiavelli did. He didn't just give advice. He infiltrated. He embedded himself in their thoughts, their fears, their pride. He became the voice in their head when it mattered most. Because people don't obsess over others. They obsess over the version of themselves they become when you're near. And that's where your power lives, in making them feel stronger, more seen, more wanted. You make them believe that only you see something in them no one else ever could, a version of themselves that only exists when you're in the room. Every time they take even a small step away from you, they feel a little emptier, and that's what pulls them back. Because it's not really you they're obsessed with. It's who they become when they're near you. Once they're emotionally invested, once they've started seeking your attention, you assign them a role, a title that elevates them. You're the only one who really sees this side of me, or, I don't usually trust people, but with you it's different. Now they feel chosen. And to lose you would mean losing that identity. That's what obsession is, not desire for you, but a desperate need to protect the best version of themselves that only exists when you're around. People protect mirrors the same way they protect their ego. And you've become the mirror they can't afford to break. Machiavelli once wrote, "Men must either be caressed or annihilated." If you want to own someone's emotional loyalty, you don't demand their secrets. You create the kind of silence where they offer them. You don't ask. You just listen. You let them unravel. No judgment. No interruptions. And that alone makes them feel safer with you than they've ever felt with anyone. You become the vault, the one place their secrets live. And they know if you disappear, those secrets sit there in silence, unresolved, unacknowledged. That fear creates attachment. And attachment, when cultivated right, turns into obsession. And then comes memory manipulation. You're not just shaping who you are in the present, you're reshaping who you were in the past. You plant new meanings into old moments. Remember the way you looked at me when I said that? Something shifted. Or, when we walked past that place, I could tell something in you was breaking. Maybe it didn't happen like that. But now they remember it that way. Because the brain rewires through emotion, suggestion, and repetition. And now you've become something surreal, more intense, more significant, a plot twist in their life they didn't see coming and now can't forget. Obsession dies when stories end. So don't give them closure, give them mythology. Talk about the places you'll go, the lives you might live together, the moments that could happen, then vanish. You're offering them what Machiavelli would call a political promise, full of hope, but never guaranteed. And that possibility, that maybe, becomes a hook in their mind. What if it was real? What if they were the one, and I lost them? The story doesn't end. It lingers, and it brings them back to you every time life feels dull, cold, or hollow. You're the one who changed the course of their story. And they remember it, obsessively. But to seal it, you need one last element, fear. Not loud, dramatic fear. A quiet, creeping panic. The fear of losing you. Because once your absence becomes more terrifying than your presence is comforting, they'll start chasing you on their own. Machiavelli didn't threaten power. He just made people terrified of not being included. When someone senses that your attention could vanish without warning, they cling tighter. So after a deep moment, pull back. After a moment of connection, go silent. Not to punish, but to unsettle. They'll start asking themselves, did I mess up? Are they pulling away? Did I lose something? You've made them feel like they're the unstable one, like keeping you close is their responsibility. And they'll do anything to keep the door from closing. No one's afraid of losing something they don't value, so your job is to offer something that feels sacred, but only in drops. A little access. A little vulnerability. Enough to make them feel chosen, maybe even irreplaceable. Because if they ever lose you, they're not just losing a person, they're losing a privilege. And people are biologically wired to panic when a privilege is taken away. You should treat your loyalty like vintage wine, offered in sips, shared in rare toasts, never handed over by the bottle. The less they get, the more they crave. And beneath that craving is a quiet dread, the fear that one day, you'll stop pouring altogether. Everyone has a hidden insecurity they're trying to outrun, and your role isn't to fix it, but to become the only person who temporarily makes it disappear. When you make them feel powerful, understood, whole, they attach that relief to your presence. But when you slip away even slightly, the old fear creeps back in. And now they don't just want you, they need you. Because you've become their relief. Their silence breaker. Their emotional cure. You are the only thing standing between them and the fear that eats them alive. And they grow dependent, not on your words, not on affection, not even on love, but on the version of themselves they can only access when you're near. Now even imagining your absence feels unbearable, a panic dressed as attachment. Most people aren't afraid of rejection itself, they fear the lack of closure. So if someone thinks you might leave, they panic. But if they suspect you'll leave because of something they did, they fight harder to keep you. You never have to threaten to walk away. Instead, plant seeds like, "You've always had strength. I just hope you don't lose that like everyone else." People don't lose me because I leave, they lose me when they stop remembering how rare I am. You're not pushing them away. You're making them terrified of pushing you away. Now they don't just want you around, they're protecting you like something fragile and priceless. Once you've woven yourself into their self-image, their memories, their emotional highs, you quietly become their moral compass. You say things like, "You're better than that," or, "That's not how I see you," and then you step back, just enough to make them wonder if they've disappointed you. They're no longer chasing affection, they're chasing approval. And when you control someone's self-perception, you control everything. You can go completely silent, and they'll start spiraling. One text, then another, then another. They'll scroll through old messages looking for answers. And Machiavelli? He wouldn't say a word. Because silence hits harder than any explanation. You've made them addicted to unpredictability. They're stuck trying to fix something they didn't even break. They're already lost in the maze, you just have to stay a few steps ahead. Always close enough to feel, never close enough to reach. But even obsession needs fuel. And nothing feeds it better than the perfectly timed disappearance. Once you pull away, your presence doesn't shrink, it amplifies. That's what Machiavelli understood. Remove yourself, and you don't vanish, you expand. You stop chasing attention and become the absence they can't ignore. You don't ghost them. You don't block them. You simply fade, answer slower, smile a little less, let your tone cool. And never give them a reason. If they ask what's wrong, just say calmly, "Nothing. I've just been in my head." Now they start blaming themselves. Was I too much? Did I say something wrong? Did I lose them? And that's when the obsession deepens, because now they're not thinking about you, they're thinking about why they don't have access to you anymore. During the fade, you don't disappear completely. You leave behind triggers, a song you both loved, a place you always met, a phrase only you ever said. Now you live in the background of their daily life, not as a memory, but as a presence. Their mind starts filling in the gaps. Their own imagination becomes your voice. And obsession needs that friction. So leave little signals. Watch their story, but don't reply. Like a comment, but don't message. Send a vague message with no explanation, then vanish again. Those breadcrumbs you left behind, they keep the hope alive. The hope that maybe, just maybe, you're still thinking about them. And that hope keeps them crawling through their own emotional drought, desperate for the smallest drop of attention. You're no longer someone they simply want. You've become the remedy they believe they can't live without. And you've made sure you're the only source of that relief. Then, after silence, you return. But not as the same person. You come back colder, sharper, more detached, more in control. You smile less. You soften less. And they notice. They can feel the difference. They sense the distance. They start trying to claw their way back to the version of you they once had, but you never fully return. You let them feel, through tone and behavior alone, that you were once close, but something changed. And that makes your presence even more valuable. They're not chasing you, they're chasing who you used to be. And no one ever stops chasing the ghost of the one person they felt safe with. They'll try everything. None of it will work. Because now you're untouchable. They're not really chasing you anymore. They're chasing relief from who they became because of you. They're caught in a loop of their own making, built from your silence, your warmth, your withdrawal, your reappearance. You gave them just enough of paradise to make reality unbearable in comparison. Now you've entered legend territory. Time to build the myth. Speak about your past in ways that feel poetic and deliberately unclear. Let others define you in extremes, mysterious, powerful, unknowable. Never explain. Let them argue. Because once someone starts defending you to others, they've already turned into your disciple, your myth's mouthpiece. You're not just someone they used to know. You've become a story. And stories outlive memory. Now it's time to use that. Machiavelli didn't want to be admired. He wanted obedience. Because obsession, when shaped correctly, becomes the most effortless form of control. Once someone's identity becomes wrapped around you, they stop wanting you. They start needing to prove themselves to you. And when that happens, you don't need to ask for anything. They give it all willingly. When someone's obsessed, they're constantly seeking your approval. So don't reward their love, reward their loyalty. They defend you? You show warmth. They echo your values? You open up. They follow your unspoken rules? You show subtle appreciation. Soon, they begin to realize, the more I act in ways that please them, the more I feel like myself. That's behavioral loyalty. Now raise the standard, with silence. Let your energy speak for itself. You expect emotional discipline, composure under pressure, loyalty that doesn't ask for praise. You don't state your standards. You live them. And they'll adjust. They'll start watching how you move, remembering what you like, learning how to stay in your presence, because they don't want to lose it. This is how you build invisible rules, not through control, but through carefully measured attention. Surface-level obsession fades. But obsession rooted in ideology becomes immortal. So what do you really believe? The truths that cut, the ones most people are too soft to hold? That access should be earned. That loyalty is a choice, not a gift. That silence can say more than confession. You don't lecture about these things, you drop them casually. And if they agree, they begin reshaping their worldview around yours. Not because you told them to, but because they want to be like you. Now they're not just obsessed with you, they're obsessed with becoming you. You've become the answer to a question they couldn't even articulate. People carry around invisible voids, a hunger to feel dangerous, a need to be deeply understood. You don't fill those voids directly, you hint that you see them, that only you see them. And that illusion, that only you get it, makes walking away feel like spiritual suicide. They may try to move on, but every connection after you will feel flat. Because you weren't just a person, you were a doorway to the version of themselves they actually liked. And now it's closed. Machiavelli never gave orders. He made people believe his moves were their ideas. You plant thoughts like seeds, and feed them with quiet praise. You always read the room so well. You see things most people miss. And suddenly, they start believing that following you is intelligence, that pleasing you is power. And they'll swear it came from them. That's how you lead without resistance. At this point, you're no longer just a person. You've become a symbol. You're not flawed, not human, not touchable, you've become myth by design. Machiavelli understood this. Fear and fascination are strongest when they come from something not quite human. So stay unreachable, speak rarely but with weight. Let them chase meaning where you've only left suggestion. You don't exist inside their story anymore. You exist outside it. Not as a chapter, but as the author they'll never meet. You don't just appear, you haunt.